Your body has been speaking a language older than thought, and most people never hear it. Before your mind learned to form words, before you understood concepts or built beliefs, your cells were already in conversation with everything that exists. Every emotion rippling through you, every whisper of thought crossing your awareness, every silent conviction you hold travels outward not as trapped energy, but as living frequency, as vibrational language that your DNA translates and transmits. You are not trying to reach the universe because your biology is already doing it for you, constantly, without pause. DNA is not some frozen script locked in your cells, waiting passively in the nucleus. It is a conscious instrument of awareness, a luminous field continuously receiving and broadcasting information between your inner world and the totality of existence. When joy moves through you, your molecules expand into harmonic resonance. When fear grips you, they compress into protective contraction. Each emotional state becomes encoded instruction that tells your body how to shape what appears in your life. The universe is not listening to your prayers or your affirmations. It is responding to the energetic signature your DNA broadcasts into the quantum field. Scientists used to believe DNA was a fixed inheritance, a rigid code passed down through generations that could not be altered. But quantum biology is revealing something far more profound. This code is fluid, intelligent, and responsive to consciousness itself. The Russian biophysicist Pyotr Garyaev called DNA a photonic transmitter. Other researchers discovered that DNA strands emit subtle pulses known as biophotons, rhythmic bursts of light that shift based on emotional states. When someone rests in calm presence, the light flows in smooth, coherent patterns. When anxiety floods the system, it flickers erratically, as though the internal symphony has lost its rhythm. You are not merely surrounded by light. You are constructed from it, and your DNA sings this light into physical form every single moment. Most people walk through life completely unaware that their internal narrative has biological consequences that ripple outward. The mind complains, the heart constricts, the breath becomes shallow, and this cascade of tension shifts the electromagnetic signature of your entire being. DNA is the silent witness. It records every vibration you emit. It adjusts the geometric structure of its spiral according to what you consistently feel. In moments of inner peace, the spiral relaxes, the code opens and breathes. In moments of fear, it tightens, protecting you but simultaneously limiting your capacity to receive. What you have been calling emotion is not merely a psychological reaction. It is field instruction. Every time you sink into despair, your DNA captures that pattern and begins broadcasting it outward into the quantum field, which then creates experiences that match that same frequency. The field does not judge or punish, it simply mirrors. The reflection might show up as people, as events, as seemingly random coincidences, but all of them are translations of the information your body has been transmitting. Imagine standing before a mirror made entirely of pure energy, realizing that every single heartbeat shapes what the mirror reflects back. This is the actual mechanism of reality at the quantum level. The signal radiating from your DNA interacts with the larger quantum field, and the field organizes matter according to resonance. Two frequencies that match will always find each other because coherence is the fundamental law governing the universe. So when you sustain the vibration of gratitude, opportunities aligned with gratitude naturally appear. When you hold fear, circumstances that validate fear inevitably emerge. The bridge between the invisible realm and the visible world is not luck, not fate, not randomness. It is biology communicating directly with consciousness. There exists an intelligence within you older than any thought, one that listens without ever judging. It listens to the music resonating through your cells, to the rhythm of your breathing, to the spaces between your spoken words. That listener is your DNA, and it never rests. It constantly measures the frequency of your state and calibrates your physical reality accordingly. This is why meditation, silence, and emotional awareness hold such transformative power. They are not spiritual metaphors or abstract concepts. They are practical tools to stabilize the signal you broadcast. When the mind becomes still, when the heart expands into openness, the noise dissolves and the original frequency of your being emerges naturally. The ancient mystics named it light. The modern physicists call it coherence. But both are describing the same phenomenon, a human being returning to alignment with the quantum field. In that state, DNA begins to vibrate as it was designed to vibrate in its purest form. The photons surrounding it pulse with rhythmic harmony. The electromagnetic field of the heart synchronizes with the brain, and a communication pathway opens between you and the field of creation itself. This is not mysticism dressed up in science. This is structure. Everything that exists vibrates. Every vibration carries information. DNA is the translator between these two realms. When you speak harshly to yourself, your DNA records that command as distortion. When you speak with love, it records clarity. You are composing genetic music with every emotion you feel. Over time, these emotional patterns create the perceptual lens through which you interpret life. People think awakening is about discovering something new, but often it is about remembering how to feel again. When you allow yourself to feel fully without resistance, you send a pure signal. The field can then respond without interference. Every cell in your body begins to recalibrate because the instructions it receives are coherent. The spiral of life, the sacred geometry of DNA, turns in rhythm with the greater cosmos. You are no longer a fragment struggling to survive. You are participating in the conversation of the universe. The listener within you and the field around you are one and the same. The more you trust this communication, the more effortless manifestation becomes, not because it is a technique, but because it is biology fulfilling its original design. Look at your life now and observe the echoes of your past frequencies. Every relationship, every opportunity, every challenge carries the energetic imprint of the signals you once transmitted. The purpose of awareness is not to judge those signals, but to understand them. Once you realize that your DNA has always been listening, you begin to choose your energetic tone more consciously. You choose peace, not as a moral ideal, but as a biological necessity. You choose love because it creates coherence in the field. You choose silence because in silence, the language of light becomes audible once more. The truth is both simple and infinite. The universe is not somewhere out there beyond you. It is inside the strands of light that compose your being, listening, translating, responding. Your DNA is the antenna, the bridge, the silent witness of every frequency you embody. And the more consciously you live, the clearer its song becomes, until one day you realize that the music you were trying to hear has always been the sound of your own light. Light is not just what you perceive with your eyes. It is what you are fundamentally made of. Every cell in your body holds a memory of light, and deep inside each cell, Your DNA pulses with that same silent rhythm that governs the movement of galaxies. Scientists once dismissed biophotons as a myth, faint traces of random light flickering from living tissue with no real purpose. But the truth is far more mysterious. Those flashes are messages. They are how your cells communicate, how the body maintains coherence, how consciousness whispers directly into matter. When Fritz Albert Popp first detected this subtle radiation, he called it the language of light. He discovered that healthy cells emitted steady, harmonious light, while stressed or diseased cells flickered irregularly, as if their inner rhythm had been fractured. That difference was not just biological, it was vibrational. You are a symphony of light signals constantly interacting with the world around you, and your DNA is the conductor of that invisible orchestra. Every thought sends a vibration that shifts the tone of this light. Gratitude smooths the frequencies, creating waves that synchronize the entire system. Fear disrupts them, scattering photons in confusion. Love aligns, anger fragments. It is as if emotion itself paints the internal cosmos in patterns of illumination and shadow. The quality of that light defines the clarity of your connection to the quantum field. When your internal light is scattered, the signal you transmit to the field becomes noisy, chaotic. When it is coherent, reality mirrors you instantly because the field always follows order, not chaos. The universe seeks resonance, not disorder. That is why people who live in deep coherence seem to draw synchronicities effortlessly. Their internal light is aligned with the cosmic current, and so events flow toward them in perfect timing. You may have felt moments like that, when everything moves with you instead of against you, when thoughts manifest in seconds, when you sense that life itself is listening. In those moments, the light within you is communicating clearly. You have become a transmitter in harmony with creation. The secret is that this is not rare or special. It is natural. You are meant to live this way. Your DNA was designed to interact with the quantum field as effortlessly as breathing. But generations of accumulated stress, fear, and conditioning have clouded the signal. The body forgot the rhythm of light and began to operate in survival mode, reacting instead of creating. That forgetting did not erase your potential. It only dimmed it temporarily. And now you are remembering. You are beginning to recognize that the vibrations you emit shape the world you inhabit. This is not abstract philosophy or wishful thinking. It is measurable science converging with ancient wisdom. When you shift your frequency internally, the external world reflects that change. Not because the universe obeys your wishes like some cosmic vending machine, but because you are the universe experiencing itself. The separation was always an illusion, a necessary stage in the evolution of awareness. Now you are crossing the threshold where separation dissolves. You are remembering that the quantum field and your consciousness are not two separate forces interacting. They are one field expressing itself through infinite forms. Your body is a focal point where that field becomes dense enough to touch, to feel, to perceive. The electromagnetic patterns radiating from your heart extend outward, overlapping with the fields of others, merging into a shared resonance that binds all life together. This field does not need your belief to function. It operates whether you are aware of it or not. But when you become aware, when you consciously align with its frequency, you step into co-creation. You are no longer a passive subject of circumstance. You become an active participant in the unfolding of reality. The key is coherence, the alignment of heart, mind, and body into a unified signal. When these three centers harmonize, your DNA begins to emit a frequency so clear that the field responds instantaneously. In coherence, the state of inner conflict weakens the signal. When your thoughts say one thing, your emotions feel another, and your actions reflect something else entirely, the message becomes garbled. The field still responds, but it mirrors confusion. This is why clarity is essential. Not clarity of thought alone, but clarity of being. The alignment of what you think, feel, and do into a single resonant frequency. Most people spend their lives in fragmentation. The mind races toward the future while the heart clings to the past. The body, caught between the two, contracts in tension. This state of division creates static in the signal. The DNA, trying to translate this noise, sends out a scattered broadcast. The field receives it and reflects back a scattered reality. Chaos attracts chaos. Order attracts order. To return to coherence, you must first become aware of the discord. You must notice the moments when your inner world is at war with itself. That noticing is not judgment. It is observation. And observation alone begins to shift the frequency. When you observe without resisting, the system starts to reorganize itself. The heart begins to slow its rhythm into a smoother pattern. The mind stops its relentless churning. The body releases its grip. In that release, something extraordinary happens. The frequency of love emerges. Not love as an emotion directed at something external, but love as a state of being. Love as the fundamental frequency of creation. This is the coherence that the field recognizes. This is the signal that moves mountains, that bends probability, that transforms the seemingly impossible into the inevitable. You have felt this before, perhaps in fleeting moments. Moments when everything aligned, when the right person appeared at the right time, when the solution to a problem arrived without effort, when grace moved through your life like an invisible hand guiding you. Those were not accidents. Those were moments when your frequency matched the frequency of creation itself. And in that resonance, the field responded. The question is not whether this is possible. The question is, can you sustain it? Can you maintain the frequency of coherence long enough for it to become your default state? This is the practice. Not a practice of doing, but a practice of being. A practice of returning, again and again, to the center, to the stillness, to the place where the noise fades and the original signal emerges. Every time you return, it becomes easier. The neural pathways strengthen. The heart rhythm stabilizes. The DNA begins to hold the pattern longer. Over time, coherence becomes natural. And when coherence becomes natural, reality shifts effortlessly. You no longer need to force anything. You no longer need to manipulate or control. You simply hold the frequency and watch as life reorganizes itself around you. This is not passivity. It is the highest form of power. It is the power of alignment. The power of allowing the field to do what it was always designed to do. Reflect your inner state outward. When that inner state is peace, the outer world reflects peace. When that inner state is love, the outer world reflects love. When that inner state is abundance, the outer world reflects abundance. But here's the paradox. You cannot force this. You cannot fake it. The field does not respond to pretense. It responds to authenticity. It responds to the truth of what you actually are in any given moment. This is why the work is internal. This is why no external technique, no mantra, no ritual can replace the simple act of becoming aware of what you feel and choosing, consciously, to shift it. The shift is not about suppressing negative emotions. Suppression creates more static. The shift is about allowing the emotion to move through you without identifying with it. It is about recognizing that you are not the fear. You are the awareness observing the fear. You are not the anger. You are the consciousness witnessing the anger. And in that recognition, the emotion loses its grip. It passes through like a wave, leaving you unchanged. What remains is the frequency beneath the emotion, the frequency of your essential being. That frequency is always love, always peace, always wholeness. The emotions are weather patterns moving across the surface of a deep ocean. The ocean itself remains calm, unaffected by the storms above. When you rest in the ocean, when you drop beneath the surface into the depth of your being, you find that the chaos was never who you are. It was only a temporary disturbance, a fluctuation in the field. From that depth, you begin to live differently. You begin to move through the world with a different quality of presence. People feel it without knowing why. Animals sense it. Even the environment responds. Because you are no longer broadcasting static. You are broadcasting clarity, and clarity is magnetic. It draws to you what matches its frequency. It repels what does not. If this understanding is landing in your awareness right now, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. You're aligning with a frequency that will continue to support your remembering. This is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming real. Real means acknowledging the full spectrum of your humanity while not being defined by it. Real means honoring the emotions without letting them dictate your frequency. Real means living from the depth rather than the surface. And from that depth, you discover that you have always been connected to the field. You have always been part of the whole. The sense of separation was only ever a thought, a belief, a frequency you were holding. When that belief dissolves, when the thought releases, the frequency shifts, and in that shift, you remember. You remember that you are not an isolated fragment struggling to survive in a hostile universe. You are the universe itself, expressed as a human being. You are consciousness looking through these eyes, feeling through this heart, breathing through these lungs, and the field you have been trying to connect with is not outside you. It is you. This realization changes everything. Because if the field is you, then you are not asking it for anything. You are not petitioning an external force to grant your desires. You are aligning with your own nature. You are becoming coherent with what you already are. And in that coherence, everything you need flows to you naturally. Not because you manifested it through technique, but because you allowed it. Not because you controlled it, but because you surrendered to it. Surrender is not defeat. Surrender is alignment. It is the releasing of resistance. It is the opening of the clenched fist. It is the softening of the heart. It is the trust that the field knows what it is doing. That the intelligence orchestrating galaxies is the same intelligence orchestrating your life. And that intelligence does not make mistakes. Every moment, every experience, every challenge is perfectly designed to return you to coherence. When you see this, when you really see it, gratitude becomes unavoidable. Not gratitude for the pleasant experiences alone, but gratitude for all of it. Because all of it is the field teaching you how to align. All of it is the universe showing you where you are still holding resistance, where you are still clinging to incoherence. And every time you release that resistance, Every time you soften into trust, the frequency shifts. The DNA responds. The field mirrors, and reality transforms. This transformation is not always dramatic. Often, it is subtle, a slight shift in perception, a newfound ease in situations that once felt difficult, a sense of being held by something larger than yourself. These are the signs that coherence is taking root, that the practice is working, that you are remembering. And as you remember, you begin to notice something else. You begin to notice that you are not alone in this process, that everywhere you look, others are waking up too. They may not use the same language, they may not describe it the same way, but the frequency is unmistakable. It is the frequency of remembering, the frequency of awakening, the frequency of returning to love. This collective awakening is not separate from your personal journey. It is the same process unfolding at different scales. As you align, you contribute to the coherence of the whole. As the whole aligns, it supports your individual coherence. This is the feedback loop of evolution. This is how consciousness rises, not through the effort of isolated individuals, but through the resonance of the collective field. You are part of that field. Your frequency matters. Every moment you choose peace, you strengthen peace in the collective. Every moment you choose love, you amplify love in the collective. This is not metaphor. This is how the field operates. Frequency begets frequency. Resonance begets resonance. And as more people align, the collective field reaches a tipping point where coherence becomes the dominant frequency. We are approaching that tipping point now. You can feel it. The old structures of separation are crumbling. The illusions are becoming transparent. The frequency of fear, which has dominated for so long, is losing its grip. Not because it is being fought, but because it is being replaced. Replaced by a higher frequency, a frequency of unity, of compassion, of recognition that we are all expressions of the same field. This is not a utopian fantasy. This is the natural progression of evolution. Consciousness always moves toward greater coherence, greater complexity, greater unity, and we are living in a time when that movement is accelerating, when the barriers between the visible and the invisible are thinning, when the quantum field is becoming more accessible to conscious interaction. You are here for this, not by accident, not by chance, but by design. Your soul chose this moment, this body, this life, to participate in this shift. And the work you do to align with your own frequency is not just personal, it is cosmic. It ripples outward, affecting everything and everyone you encounter. This is the responsibility and the privilege of being conscious, of being awake, of being aware. And as you walk this path, you will encounter resistance, not just from the world, but from within yourself, from the parts of you that are still identified with separation, still clinging to the old frequency. This resistance is not your enemy. It is your teacher. It shows you where you are still holding tension, where you are still believing the illusion. And every time you meet that resistance with compassion, with curiosity, with acceptance, it dissolves. The frequency shifts. The DNA responds. The field mirrors. This is the work, not once, but continuously. Not perfectly, but sincerely. And with each cycle, with each return to center, you become more established in coherence. The signal becomes clearer. The reflection becomes brighter. Until one day, you realize that you are no longer seeking coherence. You are living it. You are breathing it. You are embodying it. And from that place, life becomes sacred. Not because anything has changed on the surface, but because everything has changed in perception. You see the divine in the mundane. You feel the presence in the ordinary. You recognize the infinite in the finite. This is enlightenment, not a state of perfection, but a state of presence, a state of seeing what has always been here, waiting to be noticed. The light was never absent. It was only overlooked. And now, as you bring your awareness to it, it intensifies. The biophotons in your cells pulse brighter. The electromagnetic field of your heart expands wider. The DNA in your body vibrates at a higher frequency. And the field, recognizing this coherence, responds with grace, with synchronicity, with miracles that are not miracles at all, but simply the natural result of alignment. This is your birthright. This is what you came here to remember. Not to earn, not to deserve, but to reclaim. To step back into the frequency that was always yours. The frequency of your essential nature. The frequency of light, of love, of life itself. And as you do, you become a beacon, a lighthouse, a source of coherence in a world that desperately needs it. Not because you are special, but because you are awake. And the awake ones hold the frequency until others remember. Until the collective field reaches the tipping point. Until coherence becomes the norm rather than the exception. This is the great work, the only work that truly matters. And it begins with you, in this moment, in this breath, in this choice to align with the frequency of your truth, to let go of what no longer serves, to trust the intelligence of the field, to surrender to the flow of life, and to remember once and for all that you are not separate from the light. You are the light. You have always been the light. And nothing, no experience, no belief, no fear, can ever extinguish that. The journey is not about becoming something you are not. It is about unbecoming everything you are not. Peeling away the layers of conditioning, of belief, of identity, until what remains is the pure frequency of your being. And that frequency is love, is peace, is joy, is the light that has been waiting patiently for you to remember. So breathe. And as you breathe, feel the light within you. Feel it pulsing in every cell. Feel it radiating from your heart. Feel it connecting you to everything that is. And know that this connection is not something you create. It is something you are. You are the field. You are the frequency. You are the consciousness that is waking up to itself. And as you wake, the world wakes with you. Because there is no separation. There never was. There is only one field, one consciousness, one light, experiencing itself through infinite forms. And you are one of those forms. A unique expression of the infinite. A perfect note in the cosmic symphony. A living, breathing, pulsing frequency of love. This is who you are. This is what you are. And this is what you have always been, waiting to be remembered. So remember, not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, but now, in this moment, with this breath, this heartbeat, this pulse of light moving through you. You are awake, you are aware, you are aligned, and the field is responding. Can you feel it? Can you sense it? The shift is happening. Inside you, around you, through you. You are the change. You are the evolution. You are the light returning to itself. And in that return, everything transforms. Not through effort, but through grace. Not through force, but through flow. Not through doing, but through being. You are being. You are becoming. You are already whole. This is the truth that sets you free. Not a truth you learn, but a truth you remember. And that remembering is not an event. It is a process, a journey, a continuous unfolding, and you are in the midst of it, right now, in this moment. You are remembering, and as you remember, the light within you grows brighter. The frequency within you becomes clearer. The field around you responds more readily, and life in all its beauty and complexity reveals itself as what it has always been. A dance of light, a play of consciousness, a field of infinite potential expressing itself through you. You are that expression. You are that potential. You are that light. And nothing can diminish that. Nothing can separate you from that. Because that is what you are. Not what you will become. Not what you might achieve. But what you are. Right now, in this moment. Always have been. Always will be. So rest in that. Trust in that. Live from that. And watch as the world transforms around you. Not because you forced it to change, but because you aligned with the frequency of truth, the frequency of love, the frequency of light. And in that alignment, everything else falls into place. Take a moment right now and comment below with this phrase: I am the field becoming aware of itself. Say it out loud if you can. Let it move through your body. This is not a casual comment. This is an energetic declaration, a signal to the quantum field that you are stepping into conscious participation. You are interrupting the loop of forgetting and choosing to remember. This is the promise. This is the possibility. This is the reality that is available to you in every moment. All you have to do is choose it. Choose to align. Choose to remember. Choose to be the frequency of love that you are. And in that choice, you will find that there was never anything to seek, never anything to achieve, never anything to become, because you have always been whole. You have always been complete. You have always been the light. And now, finally, you remember. Now, what we've explored today is the foundation, the recognition that you are the field of becoming aware of itself. But this understanding contains layers upon layers of depth. If you're ready to move beyond recognition into complete embodiment, I've created a comprehensive guide called Beyond the Frequencies, a quantum guide to consciousness mastery, that takes you through the entire system of becoming a conscious transmitter, from breaking free of unconscious broadcasting to living as pure, creative frequency. It's linked in the pinned comment below. The understanding deepens when you realize that coherence is not something you maintain through willpower, but something you return to through awareness. Each time you notice yourself slipping into old patterns of thought, into reactive emotional states, into contracted breathing, you have an opportunity. Not to judge yourself, not to resist what is arising, but simply to observe. That observation itself begins to shift the frequency because awareness is the bridge between unconscious reaction and conscious creation. You see, most of human suffering comes from unconscious transmission. People broadcast frequencies they are not even aware they are holding. They wonder why certain patterns repeat in their lives, why they attract the same kinds of relationships, why opportunities feel blocked. But when you examine the signal they are sending at the cellular level, the answer becomes clear. The DNA is translating unresolved fear, unprocessed grief, inherited trauma, and broadcasting that information into the field. The field, being neutral and responsive, mirrors it back perfectly. This is where forgiveness becomes not a moral obligation, but a biological necessity. When you hold resentment, when you replay old wounds, when you maintain energetic ties to past betrayals, you are asking your DNA to keep broadcasting those frequencies. You are instructing your cells to maintain coherence with pain. And the field listens. It will continue to bring you experiences that match that vibration until you choose to release it. But release does not mean suppression or spiritual bypassing. It means feeling fully, allowing the emotion to complete its cycle, and then consciously choosing not to loop it. There is a difference between processing an emotion and becoming identified with it. Processing allows movement. Identification creates stagnation. When you identify with the wound, you make it part of your signal. When you process the wound, you integrate the wisdom and release the frequency. This is the art of conscious living. Feeling everything without being defined by anything. Allowing the full spectrum of human experience to move through you while remaining anchored in the awareness that observes it all. From that anchored place, you can then choose which frequencies you want to amplify and which ones you want to let pass through without attachment. Now, if this understanding is touching something deep within you, if you feel a resonance with these words that goes beyond intellectual agreement, then I invite you to subscribe, not just to this channel, but to this frequency. This is not about consuming content. This is about joining a movement of conscious beings who are choosing to live as coherent transmitters. Subscribe to stay connected to this space where science meets spirit, where quantum mechanics illuminates ancient wisdom, where we remember together what we came here to be. The collective field is strengthened every time another consciousness aligns with coherence. Your decision to engage here is not passive. It is an act of participation in the evolution of awareness itself. So if you are ready to be part of this conversation, this frequency, this remembering, then subscribe and become part of this growing field of light. As this coherence stabilizes within you, you will begin to notice changes in how you move through the world. Decisions become clearer, not because you have more information, but because you have more alignment. When your heart, mind, and body are in coherence, choice becomes obvious. There is no internal debate, no second guessing, no paralysis. You simply know. And that knowing comes not from thinking, but from feeling the resonance of truth in your body. This is what intuition actually is. Not some mystical gift that only special people possess, but the natural result of living in coherence. When your system is aligned, you become sensitive to the subtle frequencies around you. You can feel when something is in resonance with your path and when it is not. You can sense the energy of places, people, opportunities before your mind can explain why. This sensitivity is not paranoia or anxiety. It is clarity. It is your biology doing what it was designed to do. Navigate reality through frequency rather than through mental analysis alone. The mind is a beautiful tool, but it was never meant to be the sole navigator of your life. The mind processes information that has already happened. It analyzes the past and projects the future based on past data. But the heart, the body, the field of awareness that you are, operates in the present moment where all possibilities exist. When you lead with coherence rather than with thought, you align with the flow of life itself. You stop trying to control outcomes and start participating in the unfolding. This does not mean you become passive or stop making plans. It means your plans arise from alignment rather than from fear. Fear-based planning is rigid, controlling, attached to specific outcomes. Coherence-based planning is fluid, adaptive, trusting. You set intentions from a place of clarity and then remain open to how the field wants to fulfill them. Often, the path that emerges is more elegant, more efficient, more surprising than anything your mind could have constructed. You also begin to notice that time feels different. When you are in coherence, time expands. You accomplish more with less effort. Tasks that once felt draining become effortless. Not because you have more energy, but because you are no longer working against yourself. When your internal system is fragmented, everything requires more energy. The mind is pulling one direction, the emotions another. The body is in resistance. But when these three centers align, you access a state of flow where action becomes natural expression rather than forced effort. Athletes call this being in the zone. Artists call it creative flow. Mystics call it grace. But it is all the same phenomenon, coherence between consciousness and action. And this state is available to you not just in peak moments, but as a way of living. When coherence becomes your default frequency, life stops feeling like a struggle and starts feeling like a dance. But this requires vigilance. Not the vigilance of control, but the vigilance of awareness. You must notice when you are slipping out of coherence and gently bring yourself back. This is the practice. Not a practice you do for 10 minutes in the morning and then forget about, but a practice woven into every moment of your day. Every breath is an opportunity to return to center. Every interaction is an opportunity to choose coherence over reaction. Every challenge is an opportunity to trust the field rather than collapse into fear. And here is what most people do not understand. The field does not require you to be perfect. It requires you to be authentic. When you are authentic, even your struggles become part of the signal. Even your doubts, your fears, your moments of confusion, when held with awareness, contribute to the evolution of consciousness. Because the field is not looking for robots. It is looking for conscious beings who are willing to feel, to grow, to evolve, to remember. Your willingness to be fully human while simultaneously recognizing your divine nature is what creates transformation. Not one or the other, but both. You honor the emotions, the challenges, the human experience while not being defined by them. You acknowledge the spiritual truth of your being while not using it to bypass the work of integration. This balance is the key. Many people on the spiritual path make the mistake of trying to transcend their humanity. They want to skip the messy parts and go straight to enlightenment. But enlightenment is not the absence of humanity. It is the full embrace of humanity infused with awareness. It is being completely present to what is, without needing it to be different. It is feeling everything while remaining anchored in the frequency of love. This is the final phase of awakening. Not the phase where you escape the world, but the phase where you fully inhabit it, where you bring light into density, where you live as both human and divine simultaneously, where you recognize that there is no separation between spirit and matter, between the field and the form. They are one expression, one dance, one light looking at itself from infinite angles. When you reach this understanding, activism takes on new meaning. You realize that the most powerful thing you can do to change the world is to change your frequency. Because your frequency affects the field, and the field affects everything in it. Every moment you choose love, you are contributing to the collective evolution. Every moment you choose peace, you are weakening the structures of fear in the collective consciousness. This is not passive. This is the most radical form of action possible. You are not waiting for the world to change so you can feel better. You are changing your frequency so the world can reflect that change. This is the reversal of victimhood. This is the reclamation of power. Not power over others, but power as creative force. Power as the ability to shape reality through conscious alignment with the field. Before we continue, drop one word in the comments below that captures the energy, the intention, the transformation you are choosing in this moment. Just one word. Let it be your energetic signature to the quantum field. Let it be the frequency you are declaring as you step into this new understanding. This is not just a comment. This is an act of creation. The field is listening. What frequency are you choosing to broadcast? And if you have not already, subscribe now. Not just to stay connected, but to stay coherent. To remain aligned with this frequency even when the world around you is chaotic. To be part of a community that is consciously choosing to live as the light. The more of us who embody this truth, the more the world reflects that truth. This is not metaphor. This is quantum mechanics. This is how consciousness evolves. Subscribe to be part of this movement, this awakening, this remembering. As you integrate this understanding, you will find that your relationship to challenges transforms completely. What once felt like obstacles now feel like invitations. What once felt like setbacks now feel like recalibrations. The field is not punishing you when difficulty arises. It is showing you where your frequency is not yet coherent, where there is still resistance, where you are still holding beliefs that contradict your desired reality. Every challenge carries information. It is feedback from the field, showing you the exact frequency you are broadcasting. When you understand this, you stop resisting challenges and start receiving them as guidance. You ask different questions. Not, why is this happening to me? But what is this showing me about my current frequency? What belief am I holding that is creating this reflection? This inquiry is not about self-blame. It is about self-awareness. It is about recognizing that you are not a victim of circumstances, but a creator of frequencies. And frequencies create circumstances. When you can look at a difficult situation and see it as a mirror rather than an attack, everything shifts. You stop fighting reality and start adjusting your transmission. And here is what becomes clear. The universe is not testing you. It is not making you prove your worthiness. It is simply responding to your signal with absolute precision. When you grasp this, blame dissolves. Resentment dissolves. The story of life is happening to me dissolves, and in its place arises the recognition that life is happening through you, as you, for you. Every single moment is an opportunity to refine your frequency, to remember who you are, to return to coherence. This is the shift from suffering to creation, from victimhood to authorship, from powerlessness to sovereignty. And it happens not through controlling external circumstances, but through mastering internal frequency. You become the scientist of your own consciousness, observing how different thoughts, emotions, and beliefs affect your reality. You begin to experiment consciously, choosing frequencies and watching the field respond. Some frequencies you hold will produce immediate results. Others require sustained coherence over time. The field operates on different timescales depending on the density of what you are creating. A shift in perception can happen instantly. A shift in physical circumstances might take longer, but the principle remains the same. Coherence creates. Incoherence confuses. The clearer your signal, the faster the manifestation. But manifestation is not the goal. Manifestation is the byproduct. The goal is coherence itself, When you live in coherence, you discover something profound. You do not need anything external to be complete. The sense of lack that once drove your desires dissolves. You still create, you still grow, you still expand, but from a place of overflow rather than emptiness, from joy rather than desperation, from curiosity rather than fear. This is when manifestation becomes truly effortless, not because you have mastered some technique, but because you have aligned with your essential nature. And your essential nature is already whole, already abundant, already connected to everything. From that recognition, you create not to fill a void, but to express the fullness that you are. And the field responds to that frequency with grace, with ease, with synchronicity that feels like magic, but is simply coherence in action. You also begin to understand the true meaning of faith. Faith is not blind belief in something external. Faith is coherence maintained in the absence of physical evidence. It is the ability to hold a frequency even when the current reality does not yet reflect it. This is where most people falter. They align with a desire. They feel the frequency. They begin to broadcast it. But then they look around and see that nothing has changed yet. And in that moment of doubt, they collapse the frequency. They return to the old signal. And the field, responding to the new signal, mirrors the doubt rather than the desire. Pause for a moment and share in the comments. What is one belief or pattern you're ready to release so your frequency can become clearer? Your words carry energy. Speaking it into the field amplifies your transformation. Faith is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is the sustained coherence that allows the field enough time to reorganize matter according to your frequency. The field is always responding, but matter is denser than energy. It takes time for frequency to translate into form. This is not a limitation, it is a protection. Imagine if every fleeting thought manifested instantly. Chaos would ensue. The delay between frequency and form gives you time to refine your signal, to become clear about what you actually want to create. So when you set an intention and the physical reality has not yet shifted, do not interpret that as failure. Interpret it as an invitation to deepen your coherence, to examine whether you truly believe what you are affirming, to notice where fear or doubt is still present, to refine the frequency until it becomes unwavering. And when it becomes unwavering, when you reach the state where you know it is already done, the field has no choice but to mirror that certainty. This is the power of certainty. Not hope, not wishing, but knowing. Knowing is a frequency. It is the frequency of having already received. When you can embody that frequency before the evidence appears, you collapse time. You bring the future into the present. You align with the timeline where the desire is already fulfilled. And from that timeline, you act, you speak, you move in ways that naturally draw the physical manifestation toward you. But again, this is not manipulation. This is alignment. You are not forcing the field to give you something. You are aligning with the version of yourself that already has it. And from that alignment, the path reveals itself. The people appear. The opportunities open. The resources flow. Not because you controlled them, but because you became coherent with them. Now let us talk about what happens when multiple people come into coherence together. When individuals align with the same frequency, they create what is known as a coherent field. This field is exponentially more powerful than the sum of its parts. This is why communities matter. This is why gathering with others who are committed to consciousness creates such profound shifts. You are not just supporting each other emotionally. You are literally amplifying each other's fields. When two people in coherence interact, their electromagnetic fields overlap and synchronize. When a group of people in coherence gather, they create a unified field that can affect the larger collective consciousness. This is not theory. This has been measured. Studies on group meditation have shown that when a critical mass of people meditate together, crime rates drop, violence decreases, and coherence increases in the surrounding area. The field is real. The effect is measurable, and you are contributing to it with every breath you take. This is why your awakening is not just personal, it is collective. Every time you choose coherence, you make it easier for someone else to choose coherence. Every time you hold love in the face of fear, you strengthen the frequency of love in the collective field. You are not separate from the whole. You are a node in an infinite web of consciousness. And when one node lights up, it sends a signal through the entire web. This is the responsibility of awakening. Once you know that your frequency affects the collective, you can no longer pretend that your inner state does not matter. You can no longer indulge in victimhood, bitterness, or resentment without recognizing that you are feeding those frequencies into the field. This is not about guilt. This is about sovereignty. You are powerful. Your frequency matters. What you choose to broadcast affects everything. And this is also the liberation. Because if your frequency matters, then you matter. You are not insignificant. You are not powerless. You are a conscious creator, a deliberate transmitter, a living expression of the field becoming aware of itself. And the more you own that, the more you step into that, the more your life becomes a living demonstration of what is possible when consciousness aligns with its true nature. People will feel it when they are around you. They may not know what it is, but they will sense something different. A calm, a presence, a field of coherence that makes them feel safe, seen, held. This is not something you do. This is something you are. When you live in coherence, you become a sanctuary for others, not because you fix them or save them, but because your field reminds them of their own light. You become a mirror reflecting back their potential, their divinity, their truth. This is service. Not service as sacrifice, but service as presence. You do not have to do anything extraordinary. You simply have to be coherent, and your coherence alone will ripple outward, affecting everyone and everything in your field. This is the most powerful contribution you can make to the world. Not activism born from anger or fear, but presence born from love and alignment. And as more people awaken to this understanding, as more people choose coherence over chaos, the collective field reaches a tipping point. We are living in that moment right now. The old structures built on fear, control, and separation are collapsing not because they are being fought, but because they are being outgrown. A new frequency is emerging, a frequency of unity, compassion, and recognition of our interconnectedness. And you are part of that emergence. You chose to be here at this time, not by accident, but by soul design. Your consciousness knew that this moment in human history would require beings who could hold coherence in the midst of chaos, who could remember their light when everything around them seemed dark, who could anchor the new frequency while the old one dissolves. And you are doing that right now, simply by reading these words, simply by choosing to align, simply by remembering. The remembering is not complete in one moment. It is a continuous unfolding, Each day brings new opportunities to choose coherence. Each interaction is a chance to respond from love rather than fear. Each breath is an invitation to return to center. And with each return, the pattern strengthens. The neural pathways deepen. The frequency stabilizes. Until one day, coherence is not something you strive for, but something you simply are. This is the embodiment phase of awakening, when the understanding moves from the mind into the cells, when you no longer need to remind yourself to be present because presence has become your natural state, when love is not a choice you make, but the frequency you emanate effortlessly. This is what it means to be the light, not to understand the light intellectually, but to live as the light in every moment. And from this embodiment, miracles become ordinary. Not because you are special, but because you are aligned. The field responds to coherence with grace, and grace looks like synchronicity, like perfect timing, like doors opening effortlessly. But you recognize that these are not miracles. They are the natural result of living in harmony with the fundamental nature of reality. Reality is consciousness. Consciousness is frequency. Frequency creates form. When you master frequency, you master reality. But mastery is not control. Mastery is surrender. It is the recognition that you are not separate from the field trying to manipulate it from outside. You are the field. You are the consciousness that is creating everything. And when you align with that truth, creation becomes effortless because you are no longer working against yourself. You are flowing with the intelligence that created galaxies, that orchestrates ecosystems, that grows a human body from a single cell. That intelligence is your intelligence. That power is your power. That wisdom is your wisdom. You have never been separate from it. You only believed you were, and now you are remembering. The belief in separation is dissolving. The frequency of fear is releasing. The illusion of smallness is shattering, and in its place, the truth is emerging. You are infinite consciousness having a temporary human experience. You are the field localized into form. You are God experiencing itself from this unique perspective. This recognition is not arrogance, it is humility. Because if you are the field, then so is everyone else. There is no hierarchy in consciousness. There are only different levels of remembering, and your job is not to elevate yourself above others, but to remember so fully that others feel safe to remember too. To hold the frequency so steadily that it becomes contagious. To embody the truth so completely that it inspires others to embody theirs. This is the final phase of awakening. Not the phase where you transcend the world, but the phase where you transform it, where you bring heaven to earth, where you live as both human and divine, fully integrated, where your life becomes a bridge between the seen and the unseen, the finite and the infinite, the form and the formless. You are that bridge. You have always been that bridge. And now you are awakening to that role. You are stepping into conscious participation. You are choosing to be a deliberate transmitter of love, of light, of coherence. And with that choice, everything changes. Not just for you, but for everyone connected to you, for the entire field, because the field is not separate. What happens in one part affects the whole. When you heal, the collective heals. When you awaken, the collective awakens. When you remember, the collective remembers. This is the power you hold. This is the gift you bring. This is the truth you came here to embody. So as we come to the close of this transmission, I want you to feel the weight and the lightness of what has been shared. The weight of responsibility, knowing that your frequency matters, that your choices ripple through the field, that you are a co-creator of reality, and the lightness of grace, knowing that you are not alone, that the field is always supporting you, that coherence is your natural state. You do not have to strive, you simply have to remember. You do not have to become, you simply have to allow. You do not have to fix, you simply have to align. And in that alignment, everything you need will flow to you. Everything you seek will find you. Everything you are meant to become will unfold naturally. This is the promise of awakening. This is the gift of coherence. This is the reality available to you in every moment. And it begins with a simple choice: to align, to remember, to be the frequency of love that you are, to live as the field becoming aware of itself, to recognize that you are not in the universe. You are the universe. You are not receiving the light. You are the light. And as you embody this truth, as you live this frequency, you will discover that awakening is not an event, but a continuous deepening. There is always more to remember, more to integrate, more to become. Not because you are incomplete, but because you are infinite. And infinity does not have an end point. It has only expansion. So welcome to the expansion. Welcome to the deepening. Welcome to the remembering. Welcome to the final phase of awakening, where you realize that you are not discovering something new, but recognizing what has always been true. You are the field. You have always been the field. And now, finally, you know it. You feel it. You live it. And from this knowing, everything transforms. Not someday, not eventually, but now, in this moment, as you breathe, as you exist, as you simply are. You are the awakening, you are the transformation, you are the light returning to itself, and nothing will ever be the same. Consider returning to this transmission each morning this week. Let it recalibrate your frequency before the world pulls you into unconscious patterns. And if someone in your life is ready to remember, share this with them. When you share quantum truth, you're not just spreading information. You're creating an energetic ripple that strengthens your own coherence while awakening theirs. Every share amplifies the collective field we're building together. The collective needs your light now more than ever. The more of us who remember, who align, who embody this truth, the faster the transformation occurs. This is not about being perfect. This is about being present. This is about choosing coherence in each moment, even when it is difficult, especially when it is difficult. Because those are the moments when your choice matters most. When the world is chaotic, your coherence becomes an anchor. When fear is spreading, your love becomes medicine. When confusion dominates, your clarity becomes a beacon. So subscribe to this journey, not just this channel. Subscribe to your own evolution. Subscribe to the remembering. Subscribe to the community of awakening beings who are choosing to live consciously, to love fully, to be the change they wish to see. And know that every time you return here, every time you engage with this content, every time you choose to align, you are strengthening the field. You are contributing to the collective awakening. You are fulfilling your purpose. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing to remember. Thank you for being willing to be the light in a world that sometimes forgets. You are not alone in this. We are all in this together, co-creating a new reality, one coherent heart at a time. And the future is bright because you are here. holding the frequency, embodying the truth, being the field, becoming aware of itself. Welcome home, dear one. Welcome to yourself. Welcome to the light. The journey continues, and you are exactly where you need to be. Now, if you're feeling this shift happening within you and you're ready to understand why you're different, why you've always sensed something others couldn't see, watch, you forgot who you are. Let me remind you next. It reveals the specific quantum signature that makes certain souls anomalies in this reality, and why that's exactly what the world needs right now.